Are you a older endurance runner that struggles to get the correct pace distribution in your training? This will probably show up in your training as either constant little niggles or injuries, or your training feels like really hard work. You're working really hard, but the results you're getting don't seem in line with the amount of effort you're putting in. If that's you, in this video, I'll share why so many older endurance runners are utilizing heart rate and pace metrics that are letting them down, and look at what you can do as a older endurance runner instead to get better results from your training efforts. So my goal at the end of this video is that you will have a method of pacing and navigating your training plan, so that helps you produce better results, progress more quickly with reduced injury risk. Most runners are in what I call a dead zone, and because they're in this dead zone, their training is not being productive. It's where good potential runners' training goes to die. And the things that are either happening or not happening to cause this are incorrect training stimulation and pace distribution, which is mainly what I'll be looking at in this video, because this is the key one. There is training consistency, but getting diminishing results, which is something I mentioned at the beginning of this video, is often connected to the pacing distribution. And of course, injuries disrupting training, which I mentioned. And lastly, the age blame game. Now, what I mean by this is that, of course, obviously age is a reality. But what I tend to find with a lot of runners is that their results are reducing, their progress is reducing. And it's understandable. They straight away look at age. They go, age has got to be the main thing. But the reality is that though age is a factor, the biggest thing holding most older endurance runners back is they can't change the birthday candles on their cake. But the habits that they are employing are often the ones that are holding them back as much, if not more, than their age. Even if age is a big factor, you can change habits. One of the biggest habits I see as a coach that is really hard to dislodge is around pacing. Some of them almost verge on kind of religion. I'm going to be touching on heart rate, and you don't play with a man's wife or a woman's husband, but you just as well be doing the same thing with a lot of runners if you mention the frailties and drawbacks of heart rate training, which I will be sharing in this video. What you got to understand is that first and foremost, when we're looking at pacing, we live in an age of stats over states. For many years, runners could only, if they ran with a watch, it was basically doing some advanced mathematics while they were looking at a watch. My brother-in-law, who happens to be brilliant at mathematics, would often run just working out his stats as he ran along, but my brain doesn't allow for that level of flexibility. I love my running watch, but the truth is often in the middle, and fashions swing one extreme to the other, and often you'll get one extreme happening and then it will swing back to the other extreme. People are always arguing over those extremes, and the truth is often in the middle. With the running watch, where before running watches, people were running purely to their state, to how they felt. And then running watches started to come in and stats started to come in, which were enormously helpful for runners. And now it's all about stats. The joke I've always said, if your running watch said jump off a cliff, many runners would. They follow it blind. The problem is that your running watch is blind. So it's got a number of sensors on the back. Running watch manufacturers, really the only real stat that they can take, and believe me, they're improving all the time, is primarily heart rate stats. So it was always going to be that heart rate was going to be a preferred metric for running watch manufacturers because they can actually measure it effectively. But the running watch is blind. For example, if I took my running watch and gave it to one of the world's best athletes, the running watch wouldn't initially know that it wasn't me. It's just taking a number of stats and an algorithm is working with those stats. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And as I'm going to come to in this video, this is not about hating on tech, but redressing the actual balance that I feel is now fully out of whack and will, with AI and other forms of tech, only start to get even more out of balance. And what that will mean for many runners is that their running will not improve, weirdly, even with all the stats, because they won't be taking into account the state, their body. And what you need is a pacing training method that enables both. So let's begin with what I feel doesn't work for most runners. I know that there's going to be people that vehemently disagree with me on this. Everything I'm saying is a way, it's not the way. But I really feel for most older endurance runners, heart rate stats causes heartache. There's a heart rate data loop of confusion, basically. The reason why is the perception, understandable perception, is the reason that heart rate is valuable and accurate is it's an internal metric and does measure a state, not a stat. And that's true because your heart's in your body and your heart it's the engine that's driving this aerobic pursuit we have of running. So all's good so far. But the way that is actually measured is external. So via a watch. Now, I'm not telling you that the stats that the watch gives you are in effect wrong. That's not the problem. The problem is understanding those stats effectively, and are they useful while you're running? Heart rate has so many lags, so it doesn't give you the moment feedback. So in simple terms, if you're running up a hill, we're going to use this example a couple of times actually, your heart rate could still be going up as you're going up the hill. So you're thinking, crikey, this is hard work because the hill's quite steep. But the heart rate hasn't caught up with that yet. And when you get to the very top and you start coming down the hill and you're thinking, ooh, this is great, it's nice and easy, then your heart rate is still raised. The lag time is a bit like if you were in a car and you were reliant on heart rate as a metric to know how fast or how hard the car was going. You'd be coming to speed cameras and you wouldn't actually know how fast you were going or how hard the car was working because there would be lag times and you'd have to be making guesstimates. And though it's an internal metric, it doesn't do well with external variability. If you drink a lot of coffee one day, if the wind is strong, it doesn't take into account that you're going to be working harder, the heat, the cold, and ultimately for people watching this video, your age. I have so many runners say to me, I say, I want you to do, which we're going to come to in a moment, your easy run easy. And so of course I give them the zones, which we'll be sharing in a moment. And then they go, oh, I couldn't get my heart rate low enough. It just wouldn't go low enough. And then they're using it in their speed workouts. Often older runners can't get their heart rate up to the level that it's meant to be, or there's too much toing and froing between the heart rate. And so it causes heartache and a data loop of confusion. So then the runner doesn't know what to believe anymore. But it's your heart. It's got to be right. But the point being isn't the correct answer. Is it an effective way to train an input and an output with? Or is there a better way of doing this? I believe there is. That's why I don't utilize a lot of heart rate for training working with my runners. Some of my runners still use heart rate because I'm not an overseer of their training and they like it and they build it into what I share with them. But for the runners getting frustrated, confused, and fed up, it can be a lovely release not to have that worry. I do use heart rate extensively for recovery. The stats aren't always accurate. Heart rate variability is a good metric, or at least a reasonable one, to work out on recovery and things like that. But that's not for this video. So I just want to get that across, that it's not I'm a Luddite about this. It's about horses for courses and choosing the right method that works the best for you. So you say, all right, so you just ran down heart rate. Pace has got to be the one. No. Pace on its own is much easier from a training perspective. You'll just get garbage in, garbage out scenarios. The reason for that is the race pace trap. If a runner works purely from pace, even if they've got threshold paces, we do use pace and we do use threshold paces, but you've got all your zones ready there from zone 1 to zone 5 in pace. Most runners will fall into a race pace trap. And what I mean by that is they will consciously or subconsciously be thinking when they're training, this pace doesn't feel anywhere near the pace I need to be doing for my race. So they will tend to work, especially on their easy runs, at the top end of their zones, wherever they're meant to be. Quite often, this is where the dead zone lives. The dead zone I mentioned right at the beginning of the video is that they will tell you they do easy runs, tempo runs, and speed workouts. Really what happens is all their running ends up low tempo, mid tempo, or high tempo running. Now, about zone 3, and I'm not demonizing it. I keep saying this because it gets demonized, but it's about dosage. And if you use just pace as your main training metric, or unless you're very disciplined, you will tend to find that you will often train too hard. Also, because it's an external metric, if you take the hill analogy again, your body doesn't recognize pace. What I mean by that is if you run up the hill at 9-minute miles and you're puffing and huffing, it's a steep hill, your body doesn't know that you're doing 9-minute miles. All it knows is effort. And then you come down the hill at 9-minute miles, the same pace, but 2 different efforts. If your body only recognizes effort, not pace, then is that an effective training metric on its own? So I've used very often the car analogy. Pace is how fast the car is going, but it's not showing you how hard the engine is working. And for training, you need to know those things. We've covered reasons why heart rate on its own isn't effective pacing strategy. We've covered why pace isn't an effective pacing strategy. So what do we do? So a simple but effective pacing solution, and I call it the perfect pacing method, and it gets you out of the dead zone. But it's so simple that I've mentioned it many times on various videos, and I think some of you will utilize it, some of you won't, because it's so simple. The reason a lot of you won't utilize it is because you are welded to heart rate metrics, or you like subconsciously or consciously the race pace trap because you don't want your training to feel too easy. It's like a drug. Tempo running all the time, either low, mid, or high tempo running, is the dead zone. And most runners do that because it's like a drug. If you get a great feeling from it, the problem is diminishing returns like any drug. The problem with low, mid, or high tempo running as your training stimulation is that you will be in the dead zone. Your training results will plateau, injuries will increase, and you will be working really hard for less results. If you want more progress, less injury, and better recoveries, then you need to come out of the dead zone. And the way you can do that is utilizing the perfect pacing method. So the perfect pacing method in simplicity is 5 zones. You have the 5 zones. And zone 1, really easy, conversational. If you and I were out running, we could speak like I'm speaking now. Zone 2, conversation with steady effort. We could hear each other's breathing, but we would be able to speak. Zone 3 is where we come into where a lot of runners are doing most of their runs, comfortably, hard. They could speak, but probably would want to. Zone 4 is hard, about an 8 or 9 out of 10. The odd word you could probably speak. 5 is maximum effort. You wouldn't be able to speak much at all. So that's your first metric. Simple. If you're out on a run and you start out in a zone 1, it's got to be really easy conversational. You've got to be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Zone 2, steady effort. And then let's say that you had some reps in zone 4. It would be hard, the odd word. But it doesn't stop there, because pace is a great external metric, as I mentioned earlier. But if used as a primary metric, you get into the race pace trap. But if you use effort as your primary metric, so you're getting instant feedback. Remember, your body only recognizes effort. So if you're going with your effort, a couple of things happen. 1, it's instant feedback. 2, it works with the terrain. Uphills, downhills, straight, you get instant feedback. It works with the weather. If it's really hot, if you're truly in a zone 2 from a conversational point of view, your pace will automatically slow down. If you're truly using effort as your primary number 1 metric. Then use pace. With my runners, we take the threshold paces, we get threshold paces. Then you can check your watch and say on a zone 2, look where you are from a pace point of view within that zone. Top, bottom or middle, so top, middle or bottom. And most runners will be able to know then if they need to drop that down a bit. So by using a subjective metric, effort, and an objective metric, pace, an external metric, you combine 2 metrics effectively. You're getting instant feedback, like how hard the car's working from the revometer, from effort, and you can also look how fast the car's going and then make an informed decision about, do you need to speed up, do you need to slow down, do you need the same? Because the human body can only do 3 things when you're running. The same pace, slow down or speed up. When you're working from effort and then secondary pace, you have the data to make that decision. The secret sauce is effort always has to be the primary number 1 metric first. What I find with a lot of runners I coach is they talk about effort, but what they're actually doing, and I had a runner the other day, so yeah, I have a lady in my headphones telling me what pace to do. And I'm like, then you're not using effort primarily. You think you are, but if somebody's telling you the pace, then you are going to be dictated by pace. You need to be working with effort primarily and then pace. It's that simple. If you do that, you're meeting your body where it's at, progressing your body to where it needs to go in the most elegant way that reduces injury risk and maximizes progress. I just wanted to say it's a way, not the way. There's going to be people that vehemently disagree with me, people that totally agree with me, and people going, now they're the ones I'm really interested in. People who vehemently agree probably are doing it already. People who vehemently disagree are going to more than likely look for evidence to back up what they believe in most cases. What I'm interested in is people that are curious. Now, I'm not hard-nosed about this. If you gave me a heart rate monitor, I would use it, but I would still use effort primarily first. I'd always put effort first and then a heart rate monitor second. Effort and pace give me 2 good metrics, subjective and objective. But test it, the inputs outputs test. Over time, If you've been training a certain way, you've had loads of inputs. What's your outputs? What are the results that you're getting? Are you thrilled with them? Are they working? How do you know they're working? Your training is progressing. Your recoveries are good. You're generally feeling good about your running. You've got less injuries or no injuries. If the inputs you've been putting in, meaning that you're getting injured more and you're getting tired more and the progress is slowed right down, then the easiest way out of this loop, out of this maze, is to go. And as I said right at the beginning, that's a factor, but you can't do anything about that. But what about the inputs, the habits? Are they changing? Or are you in this loop of doing the same thing? If your inputs and outputs are working, if your inputs mean that your outputs are great, the results you're getting are great, then this has been a nice video, but fair enough. But the point being, if the inputs have meant that the outputs haven't been right and all you're doing is going, it's because I'm old, then maybe. But you can't do anything about that. But you can change your habits. So, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Next steps is to really look at your training. This is the Evergreen Endurance Runner model. This is the model I live my running life by, and the model that I utilize with my runners for success, for runners that are older, but they're progressing faster. You may not be as fast as you were at 30, but it's all about progress. Do you want to progress faster from where you are now? The way that you do that is initially planning, looking at breaking the boom bust cycles, the things that are repeating on repeat. And we've shared that today. The dead zone is where most people's boom bust cycles are. So we've started with that. And then we've shared the perfect pacing method, which we've looked at. It's no use knowing this stuff, it's implementing it. If you implement it into your training and know what your boom bust cycles are, you're well on your way. And then the sustainable speed work framework. Speed doesn't injure older runners. They don't have a sustainable framework for speed work. Like I've said, it's like buying a shovel and then hitting somebody over the head with it and going, this shovel's rubbish. How you've used shovel and how you use speed work is about if you're successful with it or not. Many runners are utilizing strength training, but they're getting the dosage wrong, and all it's doing is adding another level of stress and injury risk. But strength training is obviously vital to us older endurance runners. We're really looking at how we plan, train, and execute. Now, if you're interested in this model and how you could apply it to your training, you can have an age group advantage call with me. And it's basically an audit of your training. So we would look at where you are now, where you want to go, and what are the roadblocks that are getting in your way. After that call, I will send you a full audit of what I think the action plan is for you for the next 90 days with your training to improve things as you move forward. It's completely free. My plan is a certain amount of people are curious about, hey, I could do this on my own, but what about if I worked with you on the Evergreen Endurance Runner model, the model that's helped my running to continue to progress into my 60s, and how it's helping other runners do the same in their 50 plus years, endurance runners, or as I like to call them, Evergreen Endurance Runners. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested, details are below this video for the age group advantage call. Bye for now.